Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today I give you 10 amazing ocean horror movies. So as a kid, I grew up in Southern California, and I loved going to the beach. I've always loved going to the beach. Now I live a few hours away from it, but I've just always been mesmerized by that mysterious qualities of the unknown. It's kind of like space. There is so much we do not understand, so much left to be discovered in the ocean. And because of that, there has always been this haunting, creepy, mysterious quality to me that I've always been fascinated by. So with that, I wanted to give you guys a list today of 10 of my favorite ocean horror movies that in some way have to do with the ocean. So with that, let's get to the list. So starting off the list is Deepstar Six. Great practical effects, giant sea monster, sign me up. That is one of my favorite things you could throw at me, is big monsters with great practical effects. Sadly, this film came out 1989, the same year as The Abyss and Leviathan, and it was always overshadowed. It was always that black sheep of the family, so to speak. And I feel like it's underrated. Is it campy? Yes. Is it as good as those two? Probably not. But is it fun? Yes. And I am all about horror fun. I think if you don't go into this expecting a masterpiece and instead just go into it looking to have some horror fun, then I think this is a great choice, and right now it's available on Tubi.
Save your last breath to scream.
Mayday! Deepstar Six!
From the creator of Friday the 13th, Deepstar Six.
Next up is Ghost Ship. So I hear a lot of horror fans talk about how the opening scene is amazing, but after that, the movie doesn't hold up. And the opening scene is one of the greatest horror opening scenes. I agree. But I do feel that the rest of the movie does hold up as well. I think in general, this is a really good movie. Even though it is limited to its early 2000s cheese, it does have some great scares and just overall really creepy moments. It is beautifully shot, and overall, it's acted really well. It isn't an Academy Award winning movie by any means, but I think in general it is a fun action horror ghost story on the sea. So I would definitely recommend you check this out. Sadly for streaming, it's only available as a rental.
What are we gonna do?
We have got to get off this boat now.
Bon voyage.
Next up is Deep Blue Sea. And this is not a great movie, but damn is it a fun movie. I have always had a blast with this kind of movie that just has the right amount of cheese and yet charm. It's not a think piece by any means. This is no masterpiece. But if you're looking for just a really fun creature feature, movies along the lines of Anaconda, then I think this is a great choice to check out. Unfortunately, this one as well is only available to rent as far as streaming. Next up is Below. And Below is a movie I had never heard of prior to doing this list. But when I started to do the research for this list, I stumbled across it on a few different people's lists. And so I was like, hey, I'll check it out. And I was extremely surprised how much I enjoyed this movie. It's such a creepy ocean ghost story. And it has an amazingly recognizable cast. Yet they're not big name actors, but they're names and faces that I definitely think you've seen in one thing or another. Actors like Holt McCallany, who I'm a big fan from seeing him in Mindhunters, as well as Zach Galifianakis. So it's about a crew that is in a submarine during World War II. And it basically turns into this kind of creepy ghost story type of situation. And it just looks great. A lot of really great acting, like I said. And just in general, it's a cool movie that I had never heard of. And it's a movie I do recommend you checking out. And it's available on CBS All Access. Next up is Leviathan. And this is basically the film Aliens, but it's set under the ocean. And I think because of that and the fact that it came out the same year as The Abyss, this movie has been criminally underrated. So Leviathan and The Abyss are very similar movies, but where Abyss leans into the drama and the sci-fi, this one leans more into the horror, more into the creature feature horror element. And it is scary in a lot of ways. Being stuck that far into the ocean has always just been such a terrifying idea. It is well acted, well produced, well shot. It is that late 80s cheesiness, which to me at this point adds charm. And it is one of the things that I do really enjoy about this movie. So because of all that, I do recommend you checking this out. And it is free right now on Tubi.
Leviathan.
All right, next is Sea Fever, and this is a movie that I just discovered while once again working on this list, and I was so pleasantly surprised by this. This is a very small movie. Don't by any means expect like this big blockbuster explosion type of thing. This is a much more smaller think piece type of situation. But this movie is so creepy and so disturbing in a lot of ways, and man, it has some really low-key but pretty gnarly gore that's done extremely well in this. And just the special effects that are done in general in this are done very, very well. They're subtle, but they're done really well. The basic premise of this movie is an Irish crew is stuck aboard this little boat. Basically, they're marooned out in the middle of the ocean, and they come across some weird creature they don't quite understand. And then some really horrific stuff just starts happening to them. Think along the lines of Cabin Fever, but out in the ocean. Not exactly that, but along those lines. And that's basically what this movie is. But for such a small movie, it's very entertaining. And I suggest you checking it out right now on Hulu. Next up, Triangle. And I love this movie. This is a really well done movie that is criminally underrated and is a brilliant mystery on the ocean. It's one of those kind of movies that has you guessing throughout the whole run. And after it's over, it lingers and you're still trying to digest what you just watched and trying to just put all the pieces of where you think it goes kind of thing. But it has a really interesting ending. So because it is a mindfuck mystery type of movie, I don't want to give anything away, so I don't want to say too much, but it is a brilliantly done, fun, exciting movie that I highly recommend that you can check out right now on Tubi. Next up is Sphere. And it has such a great cast: Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone, Samuel L. Jackson, and it is just such a gem. I have always had such a great time with this movie. I've watched it many, many times and just have fun with it every time. I've always been a big fan of movies that come up with a creative, different way of presenting aliens. They don't just do the same stuff over and over that you've seen done a million times. And this movie does that. It never quite shows the aliens. You never even quite know what the deal is. And I love stuff like that. I love movies where your characters are just basically losing their minds for so many reasons. I mean, being stuck on the bottom of the ocean, isolated, that alone would drive you crazy. But then you're dealing with this alien being or alien entity of some kind that you can't see, you don't understand. This movie conveys something that, even though it's an outlandish sci-fi type of idea, it presents it in a way that feels viable, that you can buy in pretty quickly on and just kind of go for the ride because of that. And that's not something you see all the time. And because of that and other reasons, I really enjoy this movie. So I recommend checking it out. But sadly, I couldn't find it streaming anywhere that you didn't have to rent. But you can rent it through Amazon, Apple, YouTube, whatever. It's like $2.99.
Hey guys, I'm getting the reading on the sonar. You're not alone out there.
Next up is Underwater. And this is one of my favorite movies for sure from last year. And I've gotten so much shit for this movie, but I can't help it. I love this movie. I don't quite understand why it gets so much hate. Maybe it's because of Kristen Stewart. I don't know. I've heard a lot of different reasons why people hate it, but I don't get it because I think it's a really fun movie and really well done. This movie is everything I love about the creepy mysteriousness of the ocean, and it does that so well. It's everything I imagine it to be, the crazy creatures that you know still exist that we just haven't come across. That idea has always haunted me and fascinated me. I love it. It's something I've always just had so much fun pondering and just thinking about. And this movie delves deep into that idea and does it in a way that is just captivating. The way they present the claustrophobia, the way that you can't see much, which has been a complaint from a lot of people. For me, that was terrifying. To me, that made me feel like I was there because I couldn't see, what was right there. It's like there's something there, but you can't see it. And because of that, that just really was haunting and terrifying to me. And it might be the most well done as far as a horror movie showing the terrifying nature of this scenario, being stuck on the bottom of the ocean. If you have not yet seen Underwater, you gotta rush out and watch this. It is available right now on Hulu. I cannot recommend a movie more than this.
It's pulling me underwater!
All right, last up on this list is Jaws. There was no way I could make a list like this without putting Jaws. This movie is legendary. This is the quintessential creature feature. This is the movie that started the animal gone wild creature type of movie. You had all these movies like Orca, Piranha, all these different movies that went and took nature going crazy basically, and that became a huge craze in the 70s and into the 80s. And Jaws is what started it all.
Jaws.
But Jaws started the whole love for sharks and sharks in entertainment so much. Jaws is also the first big blockbuster horror movie that started that whole summer blockbuster thing as well. I don't think we would have the same crazy shark love that we have for things like Shark Week if it wasn't for Jaws. Like I said, I could never do a list like this without putting Jaws on it.
None of man's fantasies of evil can compare with the reality of Jaws.
So that's going to wrap it up for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you would, leave down in the comments any recommendations of horror movies that have to do with the ocean that I missed or that you think are just great. I love hearing from you guys. Please hit the subscribe button and ding that little bell because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I try to post videos at least twice every week, I also want to give a huge thank you to my patrons because I appreciate your support so much. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next time.